opinions of Radio Al-Ansar and the Al-Ansar Foundation.
Every student can learn, just not on the same day or the same way. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an opened one.
Join Sumaya Khan every Tuesdays between 7 and 8 p.m. for an educational evening exclusive to Radio Al-Ansar.
Your education is a life that is yours.
Good evening and welcome to School Matters. I am Edith Robert filling in for Sumaya Khan this evening. Sumaya Khan attended the Radio Al-Ansar Lakewood Festival in Johannesburg. Wow. And she is currently on her way back to Durban. I believe this was the very first Al-Ansar fair to take place outside of the province of KZN. A dream that once seemed distant, but now beautifully realized. From delicious food to vibrant shopping and unforgettable entertainment, I believe it was truly an experience to treasure. The Al-Ansar team carried the KZN radio banner with pride and with passion, making us Durbanites extremely proud to see our dream come alive in Johannesburg. It was more than just an event, it was a moment of unity, faith, and of joy. So, this evening, the buzz in education, all the focus on the main stage as the curtains are drawn on the matric final exams. NSC in South Africa, the National Senior Certificate, marks the culmination of 12 years of schooling, a crucial benchmark in education system, determining university and career paths for students. These exams are both challenging and stressful for both matriculants and parents. It is a major public event, end of high school and the beginning of tertiary study. That is called the barometer of the health of our education system. Students' points vital for admission, their APS scores determines eligibility and university entrance. So in studio today, we have a student who has completed matric last year. Welcome this evening, Ethan Jeremiah Thomas.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We also have with us, okay, so we will have more people coming into studio, but we will get to them soon. So Ethan, looking back at this time last year, how did you feel?
I was very anxious knowing that my entire school career had come to this one point, me passing matric. I was afraid to let my family and my friends down, as well as my teachers. However, I think my faith and belief in myself, with the encouragement of everyone around me, just pushed me and helped me to get through the year.
Remarkable. Now that it is over, would you say that the hype and anxiety somewhat hampered your progress? And looking back, was it necessary? All the anxiousness, all the anxiety around the matric exam?
I believe that it could have been avoided, and I've learned that tests are just part of life. A wise person once told me that there's always a second chance for you.
Exactly.
And a lot of my peers had to see psychologists, and a lot of children my age in school, especially teenagers, they're always pushed because of that pressure in school to suicide and extreme versions of anxiety. But I've just learned to embrace in life and move past it and focus on the successes and failures. And I believe that failures are like the stepping stones to success for a person.
Absolutely. All right, Ethan, what about parental involvement in all of this? As someone who has experienced that matric year, how did the parental involvement work with you?
Well, I've been fortunate because I've had my family and my
Yes.
close friends and teachers at school who have just always been there for me and have constantly motivated me and had faith in me. Also, their advice and their constant feedback just kept my head above water for me to just focus on the end result and just to know that I have someone to fall back on to push me back up if I have to fall down. Just having that on my conscience really helped me.
So the support system is what you're saying is what helped you through that entire matric year and especially the end of the year examinations.
Yes.
Okay. If anything, what did you take away from this matric experience? What would you say the life lesson is that you've taken from the matric experience?
So matric has it has the pressure and it does make you develop a fear, I think. But you have to just push past that, and my life lesson would be that the successes in my life depends on me and how I navigate through the challenges.
Beautiful. All right. And many students out there, I know you're listening and it's matric and the finals are here and you're really, really stressed out. And so, Ethan, many feel that they need a gap year after all of that stress. There are different views on the gap year. Some people feel that the gap year causes laziness and children not productive. And then on the other hand, it is if you have been so stressed out and anxious and the matric year has worn you down, you maybe need a little bit of a break before going into studies, also getting proper direction into what it is you want to do.
As a student who is currently in a gap year,
Okay.
I feel that if you are a student in matric right now and you feel the pressure and you can't think clearly and you feel that you need more time and space, then I would advise a gap year, because during a gap year, it all depends on you at the end of the day and like what you see yourself in the end and how you feel that you can achieve your success. So if you feel that you are under pressure in matric and you can't focus and you feel like discouraged to make a correct decision, I would advise a gap year, because it gives you a whole different perspective on your life and of who you are, of where you see yourself, of where you want to go. And just getting that perspective, that raw perspective, helps you to understand what you enjoy, because like you don't want to get into a career that you feel you will change after 2 years or 3 years. So a gap year gives you a broader perspective and an easier view of like who your true self would be in a career field that you feel you would enjoy more.
Okay. Lovely, Ethan. So, online with us in a conference call, we have Nicole Booth. Good evening, Nicole.
Good evening, ma'am.
Oh, Nicole, you are currently in matric.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Nicole, let's hear from you as a matriculant, and you're about to go into this final step of the 12-year experience of school, how are you feeling about the upcoming exams?
I'm feeling very nervous,
Yes.
but excited at the same time because
Okay.
I think I prepared, and also my teacher helped me prepare. So we've done the work.
Oh,
We've
wonderful.
done a lot of the work.
Okay. So, Nicole, what advice would you have for other matriculants? Because I love that you say that you're actually excited. It's the first time actually I've heard a matriculant say they're excited. So I know that you're really ready for this. But what advice would you give to other matriculants in terms of their emotions, their feelings, and where they are at currently with the pending exams?
I think I would give them that emotionally, do not panic, because panicking is what makes you a lot more nervous.
Yes.
So stay calm. And mostly, I would say, believe in yourself, because it all
Absolutely.
starts with you and what you do.
Absolutely. So it's about your mindset and shifting the dynamics of your mindset to know that you need to be positive and expect the best because you've put in all the work. Yes. So, Nicole, you're still going to be on the line for me, and I'm going to say hi to Zushila Mudli. Good evening, Zushila.
Can you hear me, Edith?
Yes, I can, Zushila. Good evening and welcome to School Matters.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Zushila, let me just tell everybody that you are this super fantastic Afrikaans teacher and you've had the experience of many, many years. I know that when it comes to our first additional languages, especially with Afrikaans, learners tend to not perform as well as in other subjects. Give us a little bit of feedback, Zushila, as to what you think is the reason for this.
Okay, so I guess Afrikaans first additional language, many of our learners, in my experience, don't like the subject. So there was choices. You either choose isiZulu or you choose Afrikaans. And for those that have chose Afrikaans, I think, English being a first language, there's not much effort and enough, how could I say, lightness being put into the subject. But many of our kids do quite comfortably well. And I think it's more the vocab, building up your vocab, having your foundations. And I was so pleased to listen to Nicole saying that her teachers have prepared her so well. So all of these dynamics play such an important role. It's not only your teacher, it's you, the learner, it's your teacher, it's your parents, it's your outer support system.
Absolutely.
And there's lots of children that go for extra classes. For those that can afford these lessons, will have backup plans. And there's so much out there that's available. It's up to the learner, to make use of these resources.
Absolutely. Zushila, what strategies should learners utilize for Afrikaans at this point in matric? I know they've been working through past year papers, but what advice would you give in terms of the strategy for this point in matric? Many Afrikaans learners seem to think that in the papers themselves, regarding their time management. For example, in their TAL paper, they would rather start with their TAL and then follow through with the begrips because of the lack of vocabulary. Begrips oefening is very difficult for them. So what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so many of the learners that I have taught over the years have preferred to start with the TAL.
Right.
Nothing wrong in doing that. But please also remember that your begrips, your comprehension, sometimes your TAL is based on your comprehension.
Right.
So it depends on how your paper is set. So make use of your reading time. go through your paper very carefully. Check to see if
Mhm.
the TAL corresponds with your comprehension.
Right.
If not, start with that section. That is the more quicker section to get
Mhm.
through. And remember that not every single concept is questioned,
Mhm.
and it is not also 5 questions of one concept. For example, indirect rede, indirect speech. You're not going to get 5 questions on it. Neither are you going to get latent forum, active and passive form with so many questions. So normally at matric level, if you go through your past papers, you will notice that many of the questions are 2 to 3. Most of the times is 2 to 3 of every concept possible in your time frame. With your comprehension, your begrips, your vocab is so important. You need to understand your question words. Your question words are there to help you understand the rest of the question.
Right.
And I, as a teacher, I advocate use your knowledge of your question words to help you. Comprehension is normally the longest part of your paper. You need to take a little bit of extra time to read those questions. And many of our students rush through that section, whereas it is the most important to understand those questions. But as I say, if you know your question words and your question sentences, you will pass that section comfortably. But do not waste too much of time on your comprehension, and then you do not have enough time for your visual text and your cartoons and your adverts and your summary, or making up your paper one. And that, remember, in matric, you've got 3 sections, 3 papers to write. So it's not where you need to feel overwhelmed and pressurized. If you've been studying and you've managed your time well, you will be fine.
Okay, super. So, Zushila, I'm going to ask the question that lots of children are asking. So, is there a cheat sheet or a brief way to recall things for Afrikaans as they prepare?
That's a good question. If you go and use Google, yes, you will find those cheat sheets.
Okay.
But you must remember also, I believe that if you go through your past papers, if you follow through with your teachers throughout the year, you go over your transactional writing, your layouts, your mind mapping, and your brainstorming. As I said, there's 3 papers. So, yes, with your language, you could get away with cheat sheets. With your transactional writing, know your layouts. But the best way, and I keep on saying to my students that if you do your mind mapping for transactional writing, for your essays, for your shorter transactions, you will be fine.
Right.
You build up on your vocab. And this is for my next year matriculants. From grade 11, keep a file, keep all your work in sections like it would be for your examinations. So this year, or for any year, we have a set book and 10 poems, or you have 2 set books that you need to do. So you take all your information and put them into a filing system, one poem at a time, one set book at a time. And if you start from grade 11 going into matric year, you will be perfectly fine.
Okay, wonderful.
Cheat sheets, you can go online and find them.
Right.
But I think, with the help of your teacher and your tutors, you will be fine.
Okay, great. Zushila, you'll be online. We are going to take a break. It's a prayer break, so we will see you on the other side of that.
Fine, good. Thank you.
Teaching you something new every day. Radio Al Ansar.
This adhan is sponsored for the Isale Sawab of Marhum Muhammad Farooq Latib and all Marhumin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the highest abode in Jannah. Ameen.
أعزائي المستمعين، حان الآن موعد أذان العشاء لمدينة دربن وما حولها.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This dua brought to you by Simplex Radio, South Africa's leading retailer of appliances, car sound and home theater systems.
Having a clean, comfortable home is every homeowner's pride. That's why Khan's Chemicals have developed and manufactured prime yet affordable quality household brands Starlight, Miracle Mum, Exterminate and Angie to care for your home and family. With a wide range of fabric softeners, dishwashing liquids, bleachers and all-purpose cleaners, pine gels, bubble baths and much more, Khan's Chemicals ensures your home remains our number one priority. For sales and other inquiries, call 011 933 4021. Khan's Chemicals, cleaning your home the way you want.
Your station, my station, our station, Radio Al Ansar.
And we're back on School Matters. This is Edith Robert filling in for Sumaya Khan. Our topic for discussion this evening is the matric final exams. So we've also got Tamsin Naika. Good evening, Tamsin. Good evening, Tamsin.
Hi.
Hi, Tamsin. I can hear you now.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And all the teachers are having a bit of a recess. And are you enjoying that early morning, Tamsin?
Absolutely.
So am I.
It's wonderful to get up a bit later and just laze around.
Absolutely. So, Tamsin, you are a matric teacher. How do you feel now that the final NSC exam is here? How do you feel about your learners? Are they confident? Are you anxious? What is the feeling right now?
You know, I think there's so many emotions as a matric teacher now that the finals are here. You know, as much as there is a strong sense of pride, seeing all our learners reach this milestone after years of dedication, growth, and hard work, there's also, you know, a deep sense of relief because it's been a long journey of preparation, you know, with the rehearsals and assessments and the guidance. But we also do feel very anxious because as a teacher, you want them to always do their best and to showcase what they've learned.
Yes.
So there's a range of emotions, but and sadness as well, I think, because we also letting go of these learners that we've built a relationship with through many years.
Yes.
And it's very hard to say goodbye. But, you know, with all that being said, I think I also feel confident because, you know, I feel that they prepared academically and emotionally.
Super. So Tamsin, I know your forte is the dramatic arts.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And this is your area of specialization. Just for learners who are maybe still deciding they're now in grade 9, why choose dramatic arts as compared to any other academic subject, you know, as history or so on? What are the benefits of choosing dramatic arts?
You know, I think there's so many benefits to dramatic arts because it's both a practical and a theoretical subject. So it allows for different types of learners, your creative, your analytical, and your expressive learners to excel. And also because we have the continuous assessment throughout the year, it actually contributes significantly to the final mark. So learners have multiple opportunities to perform well rather than just relying on one final exam.
Yes, that is
And I also, and drama also encourages, you know, critical thinking, interpretation skills. So it helps the learners write insightful essays. Also developing their strong presentation and communication skills. So, like, for example, you know, whatever job you take in this world, you're going to have to interact with people. And you need to know how to interact. And in dramatic arts, it's not just, you know, as some people may think, it's the learners only perform on stage. They're learning about teamwork. They're learning how to speak. They're learning about different types of personalities, how to handle these personalities in different situations, because they're doing a lot of group work where they work with many different learners. And so I think it really is a subject that is very creative and expressive. And it also reduces that exam anxiety. You know, learners can channel their emotions positively through performance instead of always writing and, you know, the essay writing and the long hour papers. I mean, 2 written exams. Here you're having 1 practical exam.
Right.
So I think if learners want to improve their confidence, their discipline, their focus, it's definitely a subject that they should take. And also they can work on their creativity. And it also, I think it's a good balance between the theory and the practical. So you get the learner is not fully into theory, it's also practical, and it also has high points in university as well.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. We also have with us Zahira Abdullah. Good evening, Zahira.
Good evening and assalamu alaikum to all the learners, all the listeners, sorry.
Okay, Zahira, I know we've saved the best for last, I should say. So, Zahira, we're talking to Zushila about Afrikaans. So I just want to touch on learners who can drop the first additional language when they get to grade 10. And let me just tell our listeners out there that Zahira is a fundi on this. And when it comes to concessions and accommodations, she is the person you need to be in touch with. So Zahira, she is a chief therapist at the school that she is employed at. Just take us through how it is that some learners have the benefit of having to drop the first additional language. And like I said earlier, listeners, these are concessions and accommodations which a lot of schools do not put into practice. And these concessions and accommodations are allowed by the Department of Education. And for me, Zahira, the saddest thing is to see so many children going through the system and finishing matric and not being given the accommodations and concessions that are due to them. So just in a nutshell, explain to our listeners, for all those parents who are out there and your children are still in lower grades, take a listen to what Zahira is explaining, because this could be crucial for your child. So Zahira, left to you.
Okay, it's quite a vast area that we go, when we talk about accommodations and concessions, but basically the document that outlines all of this is, we call it the CS document. It's an acronym for screening, identification, assessment, and support. So all schools, it's a departmental requirement that all schools are familiar with this document, because this document forms the basis of the support that you are going to give a child who has a barrier to learning. That's important. Though that phrase is important, barrier to learning.
Yes.
So it's not something that we thumbsuck. The screening and identification is, we assess this child. What could be screening, identification, assessment? What could be the reasons which is causing this learner to have a barrier to learning? Then once you identify that, you provide the support. And what is the support? The support comes from accommodations and concessions. So there is a difference between what an accommodation is and what is a concession. So an accommodation is adjustments or modifications to testing or examination environment.
Right.
So what do we mean by that? It means that these accommodations, for example, are extra time for a learner, getting a scribe, somebody who writes for a learner, somebody who reads for a learner. Sometimes it's a spelling flag. Sometimes it's a handwriting flag. The use of assistive devices, like instead of writing, you're going to use a computer. Or if you are blind, you're going to use Braille. Or you're going to use a laptop with a software program that will help the blind learner. So those are accommodations.
Okay.
A concession,
Right. So
a concession on the other hand, is a relaxation of a requirement or a rule. So for example, you were talking about dropping your first additional language.
Right.
That's one type of concession. Another type of concession is getting a maths exemption. So you don't do maths. But obviously, there are reasons why this learner will not be, a concession will be made for such a learner. And with the language concession, it's either because the child or the learner has a disability. So it could be because the learner is dyslexic. There is some, medical condition, like they have a language disorder related to aphasia, or they are on the autism spectrum, and acquiring a second language is difficult.
Yes. Right. So, yes, sorry, Zaira.
And then the maths exemption comes from when they found to have dyscalculia.
Right.
So obviously, all this you have to have evidence. You have to have support of why we are giving this concession or why we are giving an accommodation.
Right.
And that's where your support personnel come into play. So it's your educational psychologist, it's your speech therapist, a medical doctor, a specialist. So these are all the people that will be involved, in addition to your educator, that forms the basis of providing this type of accommodation or concession.
Okay. So, Zahira, so the process at school level, first the parent needs to take the step to have the child evaluated, whether it's for dyscalculia or a language concession, and a math concession. And what are the steps for the parent regarding the Department of Education? Are the steps to be followed by the school thereafter, or is it the parent that takes this on?
It is actually, you see, the school is going to identify this learner having difficulties, and it'll come up in their exams, in the tests that they do in school, or even in normal learning situations within the classroom environment. My child's not performing well in maths, and it's something that is it's all the time, and then they send them to an educational. It's up to the teachers identify that, and the CS document is the platform from where this all starts.
Right.
They'll call the parents in. They will say, "We're having." The teacher calls a parent in. We're having issues with this child, and then they look through the historical, development of all the problems. There's evidence that in term 1, term 2, term 3, in grade 1, and then they ignore it, and then sometimes it goes to grade 3, and then high up. So there's always the historical evidence of this child having these difficulties, and obviously you want to identify it at an earlier stage. So that's when you're going to get your personnel involved, like an educational psychologist, the speech therapist. And you take it from there.
Okay, super. So what would be your advice to our current matriculants, Zahira?
In terms of regarding, well, for them now, it's actually, the concession and accommodations for matric learners have already been approved by Department of Education. So I don't think the doors for that has been closed for this year. So unless, there are other, it's called an ad hoc concession. So imagine somebody who's right-handed falls and breaks that hand and is not able to use that hand, then you could make an application to the department for an ad hoc concession, and in that way you can get that learner could get a scribe. So that's the only accommodation that could happen. That ad hoc concessions happen when they are when there's situations that are out of control, that are unexpected, that happen, and the child needs support. It becomes a barrier to learning. So that is an ad hoc concession, but the rest of the accommodations and concessions have already been approved by department at this point in time.
Yes.
So just my advice to general advice to all the grade 12 learners is, just to take your time, manage your time. I think time management is also very important. And because I'm a scribe and a reader for grade 12 exams within my school, what I do notice is a big issue with time management. And, reading of the questions, doing the mind maps, as Zushila was saying, is very, very important. But the time allocations, like if they say this is an essay question and you need to spend 1 hour on it, you have to keep to that. Or if a section B, you use so many minutes or whatever, you've got to keep to that, because that will help you to complete your paper.
Yes. Okay, so let me just go quickly to Nicole. Nicole, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm still here.
Okay, Nicole. So, Nicole, I'm looking at where you are at school right now, and all the pressures of matric and the performance, and then there's been intervention by teachers. You as a learner, can you give us any advice in terms of how we can do things differently at schools for matric learners to make things just a tad bit easier for you?
I think extra lessons do help a lot, but at the same time, the time is limited. Maybe if we could add more or have one-on-one sessions. Teachers have one-on-one sessions with children.
Okay, the
not
learners.
just children they think that are battling, but every child in the class, if that is possible.
Yes, but I think Nicole, with the classes that have over 40 and so on, it is really difficult. But I think maybe schools who have the smaller classes could possibly do that. Unfortunately, with the education system as it is, we have lots of issues concerning numbers and PPN currently. So let's hope that gets resolved and sorted so we could have some of those sessions, Nicole. I'm just going to go straight to Ethan now, who was in matric last year. I just want to ask Ethan. Ethan, so you've heard what Nicole said about the one-on-one, but what do you feel? Let's presume you were a teacher. You're now out of school and you study teaching and you go into school as an educator. What would you do differently so that your matric learners will be more at ease and you'll have better performance? What ideas do you have?
Well, going from a student of recent and seeing myself as a teacher is a big jump, but let me give you a piece of my mind. So
Okay,
I
go
would
for it.
start with, let's see, I would start with strategic intervention in grade 11
Oh,
so
okay.
that learners
That's good.
can have that experience and that exposure and they can know
Mm.
like what they're getting themselves into so they can be ready for matric.
Okay.
Then I would also bring in motivational speakers.
Mm.
I would bring in people to teach the learners how to develop and evolve their study skills, how to adapt according to their courses and subjects, so they can find it easier to study as well. Because it
Good idea.
all goes down to the basics of your skills and how you study,
All right.
no matter the subject.
Okay, so speaking about study skills and techniques, I'm just going to quickly go through this for the matric learners out there. It is said that in your study techniques, the 25-minute focus sessions should be done. Self-testing regularly, different study methods for the exams, spaced repetition, review the different topics, do lots of mind mapping, teach the concept. So you pretend that you are teaching a sibling or someone younger than you. Stimulated exam conditions, practice in a real test-like setting. Subject rotation, that means mixing up your subjects in one session to stay alert and not suffer from mental fatigue. Strategic reading, ask questions before reading, find answers as you go along, and summarize key points. Change study locations, not in the same place. It actually improves your memory and association as well as recall. And then lastly, prioritize sleep. Don't sacrifice rest. Your brain needs sleep to consolidate what you have learned. And very often we find that our learners in matric begin cramming, become anxious, cannot sleep, and they are fatigued. So there's some tips for you matriculants out there. And I think we're almost at the end of the show. So I would like to go to each person and thank you. Thank you, each of you that have been on the show this evening. It was really enjoyable for me to be here and to listen to everybody's thoughts. Just for each of you, can you just as a parting shot, just one sentence in a nutshell, just one sentence, what would you like to say to all the matriculants out there? We'll start with you, Zahira. Very quick.
Wishing all the grade 12 learners the best. And may Allah give them clarity of thought when writing their exams.
Okay, wonderful. Let's move on to Zushila.
It was so good to actually engage in this topic. Just to remind our matriculants, remember self-care equals to self-compassion. Be kind to yourself, not hard. Acknowledge what you feel, and if you can't cope, seek help professionally. That's what
Absolutely.
our professionals are there for.
Absolutely.
All the best.
Thank you, Zushila. Nicole, you still with us? What would you like to say to all the matriculants out there?
I would like to say, keep on pushing because it gets harder when you're at the finishing line, but keep on pushing and don't forget to sleep.
Lovely. And all the best to you, Nicole, in the upcoming exams. Tamsin, are you still with us? Okay, Tamsin's not online. Okay, and then we go to Ethan, what would you like to say to all the matrics out there as they're getting ready for these exams?
As a student who passed matric last year, I just want to say to all the matrics out there, the pressure is not worth you getting stressed out and working yourself up over your exams and your final results. Just do your best and study smart, not hard.
Lovely, Ethan. Thank you. Thank you to all my guests this evening. Thank you for being here. And just as a passing shot, I'd like to say thank you to all the guests on tonight that have been from Open Air School. And Open Air School will be having a fundraiser on the 1st of November featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra. Please do call through to Open Air School for tickets. They're 250 Rand. Please support our learners with special needs. And from me, thank you all listeners. And thank you for your input, all our guests. And just to say to the matric learners, there is always God's plan. There is always a purpose for your life. And you have the power within to make all things possible with your faith in God. Good night.
Perfect companion, Radio Al-Ansar.
For too many communities across Africa and the world, access to clean water remains a dream. At African Muslims Agency, we dig deep, reaching into the heart of the earth to fill the cups of those in need. Sponsor a water well for 16,500 Rand or a borehole